We'd like to welcome our visitors and welcome the students to our annual Black History Month celebration 2005. If you haven't guessed it by now, the theme to this year's celebration is "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." Now hold on. We want some clarification with this. This is not meaning the 1960s with the Black Panther Party. This is being proud of your heritage, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter, but be proud of your heritage. At this time, I'm going to introduce to you our mistress of ceremonies, and she'll be in charge of things. And that's none other than your very own Myann Carter. Myann is a senior here at Admiral King. She's involved in Senior Committee, Unity Club, our track and field, National Honor Society, and after graduation, she plans on attending a four-year college. So without any further ado, please give it up for Myann Carter.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're ready for the program. To start us off, we will be starting with the choir, and they will be singing the Black National Anthem, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing. So if everyone can please stand for our national anthem.
At this time, I'm going to introduce the band that's playing. On drums, a freshman at Admiral King, my nephew Ashton Thomas. On the other set of drums, a junior here at Admiral King, Jordan Simmons. On the saxophone, my man Jason Flowers. Special guest, graduate of Admiral King last year, blowing on the trumpet, Mr. Tre'vell Anderson. On the bass from Elyria, Ohio, by way of Elyria High School, a junior, Brother Marlo Scott. And the band leader, my oldest nephew, the baddest one of Lorain County. Give it up for Eris Thomas.
Next, coming to the stage, we have Rachel Rogers, a junior here at Admiral King. She will be reading a poem called The Negro Mother. Give a warm welcome to Rachel Rogers, please.
Children, I come back today to tell you a story of the long way that I had to climb, that I had to know, in order that the race might live and grow. Look at my face, as dark as the night, yet shining like the sun with love's true light. I'm the child they stole from the land 300 years ago in Africa's land. I'm the dark girl who crossed the wild sea, carrying in my body the seed of the free. I'm the woman who worked in the field, bringing the cotton and corn to yield. I'm the one who labored as a slave, beaten and mistreated for the work that I had gave. Children sold away from me, husbands sold too. No safety, no love, no respect was I due. 300 years in the deepest south, but God put a song and a prayer in my mouth. God put a dream like still in my soul. Now through my children, I'm reaching the goal. Now through my children, young and free, I realize the blessings denied to me. I couldn't read then, I couldn't write. I had nothing back there in the night. Sometimes the valley was filled with tears, but I kept trudging on through the lonely years. Sometimes the road was hot with sun, but I had to keep on till my work was done. I had to keep on, no stopping for me. I was the seed of the coming free. I nourished a dream that nothing could smother. Deep in my breast, the Negro mother.
Next, we have Ashley Brewer, a sophomore here at Admiral King, and she will be reading a poem for us. Can everybody please give a warm welcome for Ashley Brewer?
How y'all feeling right now? All right. Well, this poem is a little something I wrote because there's just some things that are disturbing me a little bit in the black community that I need to address. So, I'm speaking from the heart right now. Black people, we're making fools of ourselves right now. If it's not from our actions, then it's from what we say, and it only gets worse day by day. Brothers, you're forgetting where you came from or where you're at right now. You want to live in a dream world, so you behave like dream world celebrities do. Then you wonder why none of these sisters are feeling you. For example, these rappers constantly disrespect us, and you want to do the same. Since when was the B word any part of our first name? But ladies, these guys aren't the only ones at fault. This I'm an independent woman business needs to come to a halt. Sure, be strong and stand up for yourself. But I guess I missed the meeting that said being independent meant living with your mom. But I thought you said I don't need nobody. I can do it by myself. Guys, you know you're not excluded from this subject. I ain't got to listen to nobody because I'm grown. If you so grown, why you just get whooped for being late coming home? Girls, I hear the conversations, and you're asking why these boys don't want some of you. One reason is we should calm this loud-mouth, high attitude down. You only look like a mess and a clown. Boys, some of y'all are lame. Some of these boys are lame because you swear all of us are alike. But because you're lazy and you won't look, there may be a sister out here that could be a major part of your life. Now, I'm not saying all of my people are bad, but I'm stating some problems that are making me mad. Also, I'm not saying I'm perfect because I never will be. I just want my people to know what it is I see. Please believe me, I have love for every last one of you all. But if we don't stand united, divided, we will fall.
Give it up for Ashley Brewer, please. Give it up. Come here. Can we have a quiet, please? Coming next to the stage is our Admiral King step team, ran by Mrs. Riley, and they will be performing a dance for us. Can everybody give a round?
Set it off in the right way. You got a banging booty and a tight waist. I've been a fan since I met you in the lobby, and hopefully you end up over my place.
I can't believe I never saw you coming over until you put your pretty hand up on my shoulder. I wanna touch, I wanna kiss, I wanna hold you. Yeah, I really wanna get you hot tonight.
Come on.
So tell me what I gotta do to get the hook up in the future. Baby, you choose tonight, whatever you like, and I'ma pick you up on time.
And it's cool if you don't want to, but you be a fool if you don't want to. Because I guarantee that if you with me, you're gonna be feeling how you're supposed to be.
Girl, give me your number, give it to me. Forget it, here go my number. Here you go. Forget it, you don't need my number. No, you don't. Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. Ooh, girl, give me your number, give it to me. Forget it, here go my number. Here you go. Forget it, you don't need my number. No, you don't. Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. That's right. And if you say you don't like it my way, we can do it your way. Any way is okay. And if you say you don't like it my way, we can do it well. Any way that you like it, babe. Tell me what I gotta do to You can hook up in the future. You choose the night, whatever you like, and I'ma pick you up on time.
And it's cool if you don't want to, but you're a fool if you don't want to. Cause I guarantee that if you're with me, we're gonna have a good time tonight. Give me your number, yeah.
Forget it, here go my number. Here you go. Forget it, you don't need my number. Forget it, you don't. Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. Come on, girl. Give me your number. Forget it, here go my number. Come and get it. Forget it, you don't need my number. Forget it, you don't really need it at all. Cause we're gonna get hot tonight.
Can we break it down? Baby, can we break this down? Can we break it down? Yeah.
Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. Can we break it down? Can we break it down? Can we break it down? Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. So get your hands up. Girl, give me a Seen a lot of shorties in the club tonight. But you the only shorty I'ma love tonight. The one and only woman that I'm thinking of. So come on over here, let me show you some love. Girl, I wanna get you real hot tonight. See if I can love you non-stop tonight. Wanna make you feel like you feel alright. We're gonna get hot tonight. Girl, give me your number. Forget it, here go my number. Forget it, you don't need my number. Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. Right here. Girl, give me your number. Forget it, here go my number. Forget it, you don't need my number. Cause we're gonna get hot tonight. Right here. Let me say, ooh, baby. Alright, yeah. And E, keep it hot for you. And I wanna say, keep it hot for you.
Next, we have the Tuskegee Airmen that came here today, and we have two of them, Arthur Saunders and James F. Travis Sr. And before they come to talk, we're going to show a video, a brief video on the history of the Tuskegee Airmen through World War II.
They were average American men who only had one dream, to become combat pilots so they could fight the enemies threatening their country. The difference was their country didn't want them to be pilots. As World War II approached, America was still rigidly segregated, not just in the South, but in the North and in the military as well. But vigorous political pressure and strong editorializing by the nation's black newspapers compelled Congress and President Franklin Roosevelt to include African Americans in military aviation, although on a segregated basis. Thus was born what was called the Tuskegee Experiment, pilot training at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. During the war, almost 900 men worked, studied, and sweated through flight school to earn the cherished wings of an Army aviator. After earning their wings, these pilots became the nucleus of the 99th Fighter Squadron, the first all-black fighter group in the Air Corps. Its commander, Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. of Cleveland. The 99th, later joined by the all-black 332nd Fighter Group, saw combat all over Europe. They became famous for never losing a bomber that they were protecting from enemy fighter planes. In a two-day period in January 1944, for example, they shot down 12 German fighter planes. These young men not only fought the enemy in the skies above Sicily, Italy, France, and Germany, but they fought racism on the ground in the United States and overseas. They never gave up on their belief in themselves and in their country. They proved that over and over again with their courage, their sacrifice, and their proven record in aerial combat.
Can everybody give a round of applause for these guys that fought for us?
Good afternoon, young people. I'm very happy to be with you today. I've been looking forward for this opportunity to share with you my personal experience as a Tuskegee Airman. First, may I bring to your attention that there was the fighter group and there was the bomber group. I was a member of the bomber group. That was the 477th Medium Bombardment Group. May I start by telling you my first experience to become a pilot. I was a student at Kansas State at Pittsburgh, Kansas, and discovered that there was a program for flying on the campus. So I approached the assistant dean who was running the program. Excuse me. He indicated very clearly that there was no space for black people in this program. About 2 weeks later, I was called to his office and told that I would be permitted to take the program because the college could not supply enough white pilots to take the program to meet their requirements with the federal government. So I had an opportunity to learn to fly. At that time, my father, who was a Buffalo soldier, indicated very clearly to me that the Army does not want any black pilots. So I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma to teach school. 18 months after I went to Tulsa to teach school, my father passed. Therefore, I had the opportunity to try to get in Tuskegee to take military training. I went to the flight surgeon to have my exam, and the flight surgeon called George. Of course, my name is Arthur, so I gave it no attention. And the second time he called George, and I gave it no attention. The third time he called George, he tapped me on my shoulders and said, "You're George. Now, George, you look like you're very skinny, so I want you to step on the scales." So I stepped on the scales, and he said, "Just as I thought, you're underweight. Now, you can't go into the Tuskegee program as a civilian. You would have to go in as a military man. So what you will have to do is join the Air Corps and then get a waiver." Could you bring me some water, please? Thank you. It's sitting on the floor right there. Thank you. So as a result of that, I was in great shock. I didn't have a name, and I couldn't pass the physical. So I was very, very depressed. And as I left the examining room and went into the reception room, there was a lady standing there, and she said, "I'm the flight surgeon's wife. Now, you have nothing to worry about. You just join the Air Corps." So I joined the Air Corps. And in my first station, excuse me, Please excuse my voice. In my first station, I discovered that because I'd had junior ROTC, that I was eliminated from taking the basic training that normally everyone was take when they enter the armed forces. And I got a job working at the interviewing and classification section. And in doing that, I discovered that an individual at the base, black, who had a master's degree in mathematics, had been offered an opportunity to join the student, pardon me, to join a program at Yale University to train armament and bomb sight officers. He invited me to join that program, and I joined the program and left 2 weeks after I had applied for entry to Boca Raton Club, Florida, where we received administrative training. Now, everything went quite well at Boca Raton, Florida. So on graduation, we went to the nearby town to have our squadron graduation party. And it was a practice that the students, the cadets, would turn their backs to the building and click their heels as the ladies passed. And then someone discovered that there were 4 black cadets in this group. So they sent for the chief of police. So the chief came and said, well, we're not going to have any white women serving black men. So as a result of that, the chaplain who was going to attend the meeting and the squadron commander who was there with us sent for the commandant of cadets. So the commandant of cadets came to the base. Thank you. Thank you. And indicated to the chief of police that if you don't serve these 4 black cadets, I will cause this town to be off limits to all the personnel at my base. So we were taken in, and it was agreed that if we sit as close to the door, to the kitchen, as possible, then they would serve us. So as a result of that, the head table was placed at the kitchen door, and 1 black cadet sat at the head table. And then we were off to Yale University. And we didn't have too much trouble there. When we started our training, on one occasion, we discovered that some of the instructors had decided to wash us back. In the meantime, we had geared ourselves for that because we joined every type of organization that we could for competition so that we would gain points. And gaining these points, we knew that they couldn't wash us back very easily without having a great ceremony to determine whether or not we should be washed back. So we completed our training at Yale University, and then I went to Tuskegee, Alabama, where the 477th Medium Bombardment Group was being formed. And after Tuskegee, I discovered that on putting together the 477th, that there were only senior officers involved. My experience as a classification man indicated that they needed to have a junior to run around and take care of business and do little things that the senior officers didn't want to do. So I moved on from Tuskegee, Alabama to Selfridgefield, Michigan. And when I got to Selfridgefield, Michigan, I received an order from the commanding general of the 8th Air Force that all black commissioned officers should be placed in one auditorium. And the commanding general of the 8th Air Force came in and said very clearly, "You're black. You're not white. You're not going into the White Officers Club." So for that, we were then shipped to Godman Field, Kentucky. Now, Godman Field, Kentucky is surrounded by Fort Knox. So there was little opportunity or any case for us to riot and rebel because we were surrounded by ground forces. So we completed our training at Godman Field, which is a very small base, and it had its own small officers club. So this officers club became the Black Officers Club. All along the line, they had tried to give us the NCO club and take the NCO club away from the NCOs and give them a barracks to socialize in. Of course, we totally refused that. And as a result, we continue to move on with our training. Excuse me. At Godman Field, which was a small base, 2 squadrons remained there for training, and 2 squadrons went to another base for training. Eventually, we ended up with our basic training and for overseas in Europe. Now, no one would accept us in Europe, so what they decided to do was make some different arrangement. Now, about this time, the war was winding down in Europe, so they started giving us training for the Pacific. And in the meantime, 101 black commissioned officers went into the White Officers Club in Seymour, Indiana, and they were all placed in a resting quarters. And resting quarters means that you actually go to your quarters and stay there. But these men were flown back to Godman Field, placed in 2 barracks, armed guards around the barracks, and floodlights on the barracks. It created such a problem. The black newspapers were able to get the information. The information was disseminated throughout the United States, and the commanding officer who caused this to happen was ordered to stay by the telephone. So that meant that he did not leave the telephone for approximately 2 weeks. And his orders were to reorganize that program and straighten out these terrible conditions. As a result of that, the fighter group and the bomber group were combined. So it became a fighter-bomber group. And we were then instructed and took training for the Pacific. The solution to that was that we could be put on one little island, and we wouldn't have to come in contact with any white people at all. Now, as a result of all of this, integration took place. And the first 4-star black general was Chappie James, who was a member of the 477th Medium Bombardment Group. Thank you.
Now you can really clap. Well, I'm here because, as in usually in life, if you can't make the best of what you are or what you can do, if everybody can call you a failure and you successfully become a failure, what is the progress? I'll tell you one thing that happened to me in the beginning. In 1943, well, as a matter of fact, this fellow and I went to the same high school in Kansas City, Missouri. And we were both in ROTC. I graduated from high school in 1939. I was 4 feet 11 inches tall, weighing 98 pounds. But I was still the battalion adjutant in my ROTC unit. Here I am, 4'11", my voice hadn't changed, and I'm out on the field calling the battalion to attention in a high-pitched voice, and the commander of the unit was 6 feet 1 inches tall, and I'm 4'11", calling the battalion to attention in a high-pitched voice. But they had to pay attention because if I didn't know the military procedures, I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't have been the second in command. At any rate, I left there after graduation. I went to Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. And while I was at Lincoln U, can you feature me playing basketball? At 5'1", playing college basketball? But I did. At 5 feet tall. I made the varsity basketball team. I just didn't give up. I was drafted into service in March of 1943. I went to the draft board, they looked at me and said, give me my classification, whether I would be a 1A or a 4F. So they looked at me and he said, height, age, weight. Then he decided to describe me. On this little piece of paper, he wrote down hair black, eyes black, complexion black. I looked at him. I said, "Are you colorblind?" Now here I am, like I said, I'm only 5'1", but this guy just could not talk to me like that. I said, "Now how could anybody identify me from your description?" I turned my hand over. I am lighter than he was. That's just the beginning. So I went into the service. I went into service. Okay, sorry. I'm not used to talking and doing anything, you know. So I went on to service. I went to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, as the entry base for me to go ahead. I got there. I went to the barracks, and the sergeant that was in charge of the barracks called me aside. He said, "Hey, Travis, come here." I said, "Yes." He said, "Anytime you want to go to the mess hall, you can go." I said, "Okay." Then he said, "As a matter of fact, you don't even have to get up for reveille." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "You have to grow." And I'll tell you, in 3 years that I was in service, I grew 9 inches. But I went through all of this mess anyway. Besides that, I went through all of the mess. I had to go to school. I went into, when I took the examinations at Fort Leavenworth for what you were going to go in through in the service, I made up my mind then that I know one thing: I cannot get gassed at 10,000 feet. I said, so I'm going upstairs. Well, at the time they had formed this flying instruction at Tuskegee. I took basic training in Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, and I took the examination for aviation get there. Out of 257 people that took the exam, I was number 13 on the list. But I'm too dumb to fly. Now that is what I had to go through regardless of what I knew, because I was not a white person, I could not go into the Air Force. On the examination for the mechanics, I had never done anything but work on my own bicycle and small stuff at the house. So I passed the examination in mechanical ability, and they sent me to Shepherdfield, Texas, now here we go again, sending me south, sending me to Texas to go to aviation mechanics school. I came out of that school. I was a rated mechanic. I went to Selfridgeville, Michigan, and joined the 477th Group. There I became an aerial engineer. That plane could not go off of the ground unless I said it to go. If something was happening in the air, it was up to me to find out the reason and recognize the cause. I made a statement one day to a fellow that, there's 27,000 feet of wire in a B-25. He said, how do you know? I said, well, look, after all, I am an aerial engineer, and I know the plane that I fly in. But they didn't want to believe all of this stuff. I can call another instance. I was supposed to go on a flight, on a training flight, and I developed a sore throat, and I went to the unsick call. The doctor, the flight officer, the flight surgeon, told me that I had a strep throat, and he would restrict me to the barracks for the week because he did not want me to have any major problems. I was in the barracks, sitting down. The officer of the day, now this was in Godmanfield, Kentucky. Yeah, that's right there outside of Fort Knox, or in the Fort Knox. He came in and he looked at me and he said, what are you doing here? I said, the doctor put me on house maintenance, house staging. So, I don't know why, the next thing I knew, I was called to the office and they court-martialed me for failure to report to the line. Evidently, they did not check with the medical officer. They didn't care. They found me guilty. They wanted to take my rank away, and they wanted to put me in confinement for a while. But the commander of the field refused to accept the court-martial, and he released me, and I kept my rank, and I stayed right there. Now, how do you think a person as small as I was would take something like that and survive, not knowing whether he's going to be able to, if he's going to go overseas or not, and they expect me to fight for him or fight for you, and you treat me like that? You have no respect for me. Why should I have respect for you? But being in the military, that I had learned while I was in high school, I understood that point. And if you're going to survive, you have to accept some things. But when you accept it, do something about it, see if you can correct it. And that's just what we did. That's what we tried to do. I've had many problems.
Before we have the question and answering session, you should know about the human cost of war in which the Tuskegee Airmen experienced. And by that, we'll be showing a second video.
Even as a young boy in the 1930s, Irwin Lawrence loved airplanes. His dream, his one goal, was to become a flyer.
As a child, he was making model planes and flying them across the room. And whenever the air shows came here, he followed them, and they always were in Brook Park on the west side. And he said, "Mother, pack me a lunch." And he'd take his lunch early in the morning and stay there until the last plane went off to the base.
Irwin Lawrence learned to fly as a young college student at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in 1940, when the federal government, under heavy political pressure, reluctantly included black men in its civilian aviation training program. With World War II on the horizon, the Tuskegee aviation program began training military pilots. Irwin Lawrence won his Air Corps wings in 1942.
After he had finished his flying lessons and was getting ready to be shipped over, I went down knowing that that would be the last time I'd see him before he went over. And he says, "Mother, do you want to go up?" He asked his sister first. She's very timid. She said, no, she didn't want to. And then he says, "Mother, you want to go?" I says, "Yes, I'll go with you." So he and I got in the plane. He was in the cockpit and I was in the co-pilot's seat. And we flew all over Tuskegee and all over the base, and we came back safely. And I just felt so good to know that he could do it. And I'm sure he felt better, too, with the two of us in there.
Captain Lawrence flew combat missions over North Africa and Europe, and then was promoted to commanding officer of the all-black 99th Fighter Squadron. Were you worried about him?
No, because I thought he was coming back. And I knew he was doing what he wanted to do. And he evidently was doing very well because he had several honors. And I was just proud that he was doing so well. And I would just look forward to the day when he was going to return, but that didn't happen.
On October 4th, 1944, Captain Irwin Lawrence of the United States Army Air Corps was killed in combat while on a mission over Athens, Greece. How did you hear about his death?
They had someone to come to the house, and I was upstairs. My daughter was downstairs, and they gave her the message. And when she heard it, she screamed, and she says, "Oh, Mother, something has happened to Irwin." And I came down, and we all had that feeling of a loss.
Do you have any regrets about the choice of career he made?
Well, no, because he loved it. I had wanted him to do something else before he went to Tuskegee. And he had said that, in fact, after he was abroad, he says, "Mother, I'll come back and enter medical school. That's what you wanted me to do." But he couldn't. But I don't regret it now, because it was just what he wanted to do. We missed him.
If you have any questions, come up front and they will be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Before you leave, give them a hand of applause, please, for comment. Thank you and God bless.
profound influence on the world, sir.
You what?
You've had a profound influence on the world, sir.
You know what? When I grow up, I will be just like you guys. Okay?
On the 6th of November, I turned 28.
I'm a teacher here at LAK. It's wonderful. It's a blessing to be able to meet you.
Nice to know you. All of you are nice people. You too.
Thank you.
There was the fighter group that you've heard about a great deal. You haven't heard very much about the bomber group.
This has been a production of Lorraine City Schools TV 20 WLCS.